So hi everyone, Direwolf just released the finals of the Mr. Beast tournament. I've not watched the game and I've tried not to talk to the players about it in too much detail. So this is my reaction to the finals game. I'm so excited to watch it. So come and watch along with me.
In the lower left corner is going to be our first player, which means that Sneaker in the lower right will be selecting leader first.
There's the 3 on top and then 4.
For this tournament, we used a leader selection method where you deal 4 leaders to the player in 4th position.
This goes here, that goes on top.
They choose one of them, pass the remainder to the person to their right, who adds 1 random leader to that pile, selects one, and then repeats the process until each player has selected a leader.
Don't do any big lean backs and look at the screens.
Yeah, we start with seat 4, which is generally considered to be the worst position to start in, so they have a little bit of an advantage on selecting their favorite leader.
Why is 4th seat considered a worse position?
Well, I think it's probably based on just not getting your first plays started on getting 2 influence towards a faction, for example.
Just I haven't even played yet. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do?
But you could argue that first position was not deserving of being last to choose leaders in this case. I think a lot of players do think that 2nd and 3rd position are potentially the best.
It's definitely possible the change between Dune Imperium and Dune Imperium Uprising has shook up the metagame on that score.
Absolutely. So I did have a chance to ask the players after the fact about their leader selections, and Sneaker, we can't see his leader yet, but I know that he has chosen Gurney Halleck, and he told me that of all the leaders that he looked at in this game, Gurney was the only one he had played leading up to this game.
Wow.
He said,
Wonder what the other ones were.
yeah, I don't know. I think we can get a little peek there. It looks like maybe...
I see Jessica.
Okay. Jessica is a tough one to play. I think maybe Shaddam was in there?
Oh no, that was Margot,
Margot.
which Jimmy just took, not Jessica. That was Margot.
So yeah, Sneaker apparently played about 13 games on the first day, the practice day, and he only won 1 of them. So he had a much better
So he's
second
saving it up.
day. Yeah, I mean, he timed his momentum well.
Hustling. Yeah, so we had Jimmy in the top right. Jimmy just selected Margot.
Yeah, and I asked him about that pick as well, and I wondered if Margot was one of his favorite leaders, and he said no. So he probably just didn't see any of his favorite leaders, and he said that he picked Margot because he thinks, he's less likely to make a mistake with her because she's fairly straightforward to play.
Interesting. In the top left, we have Frank. Frank had an excellent tournament leading up to this. I believe he was one of the first players qualified for the elimination rounds.
I can believe that because I played with him in round 3. We were both 2-0 going into round 3, so I think we were both guaranteed spots. And we actually both had a rough round 3. We came in 3rd and 4th. And then I played against him again in round 4. And so essentially he knocked me out of the tournament. Very solid player. I really can't criticize his play at all.
So we've got Rob choosing, and since everyone else has selected, Rob's just choosing his leaders face up. And Rob takes Muad'Dib. I know Rob was pretty high on Muad'Dib coming into the tournament.
Yeah, I think there was a buzz about Muad'Dib coming into the tournament, partly because the Mr. Beast team had some practice beforehand, and they were fairly high on Muad'Dib, pegging him near the top.
We can probably suspect that Muad'Dib was the one card that got added to his selection. The other players didn't have an option on Muad'Dib, maybe?
Yeah, probably so. Now, in first position, Muad'Dib isn't that wouldn't be my favorite place to play Muad'Dib, because when you play Muad'Dib, you essentially, he is very straightforward.
Right.
You need to unlock the Fremen, you need to get to Siege Tabor because you need to get worms. Otherwise, you're not utilizing half of your leader's abilities.
Right.
Wow, the leader picks. So let's just run through this. So first we have talked about Muad'Dib. Muad'Dib going into the event was touted as like the best leader. This was mainly coming from Jimmy's team. Jimmy's team, I think when they played it and they tested it internally, Jimmy's team said that Muad'Dib had a 60% win rate. So everyone said that Muad'Dib was the strongest leader coming into this tournament, and everyone was looking out for him. So like anytime when you get flipped Muad'Dib, so like because the pick order was 3, then you add one more. So every time the last one being added was Muad'Dib, you always felt like you struck the lottery. It never happened to me, but I think it happened to GVX in the game that I played, and you can see him actively cheer when he got it. So for Rob to get it in first position is very good for him. I think he feels very happy to be in first position and having Muad'Dib. So next on the list, right, I think we'll talk about Lady Amber Matuli. So Lady Amber Matuli, I think a lot of players feel that she's very weak and don't understand why Frank would pick her in second position. I think the other options she had were, what did he have? He had Shaddam, he had Staban, and he had Lady Jessica. And one thing about Lady Jessica and Staban is that I think they are a bit hard to pilot, and I think in this type of match it is a bit risky to bring it out. I don't think anyone is very comfortable with them yet, so to bring it out in this match I think it is very tough. Whereas Lady Amber, she does some things well. I think her and Shaddam actually are interchangeable. What I think Lady Amber can do is that she can threaten some lines of combat that I think that Shaddam cannot. I think once you're playing Shaddam, you like kind of give up a certain aspect of the game. But I think Lady Amber can even so that they can do some things very similar. And I do think that there is some merit to this pick. Like you cannot just look at it and think that this is a bad Ilban, right? You have to think about it as like Swordmaster doesn't cost 8 all the time anymore. It can cost 6, and if it costs 6, then a ring getting you 1/6 of a Swordmaster, how good is that? So let's say if you play the ring twice, then you have like you're almost like 1/3 the way to Swordmaster. So there are some ways where you can think about this leader a bit differently, and I think that there is merit to picking him second. But at the same point of time, I think a lot of players view him as the weakest leader. But I think when you have Staban and Lady Jessica in the game and you aren't comfortable playing them, then it's between like just Shaddam and Lady Amber, and I mean I can understand why you pick Lady Amber. I think Frank going into it also he was quite high on it. He was very comfortable with it. Let's talk about Gurney next. So Gurney, right, I think when I look at the leaders, I think Gurney is the strongest pick. I don't think Muad'Dib is the strongest. I think Muad'Dib can snowball really, really hard if you let him. But I think if I play Gurney, like I don't think that my opening can be stopped. Like in a manner that your opening is very strong. You have high troops into combat and you have a high buy power. Do you know how often it is late in the game? Like when you play Dune Imperium, you often get to like 8's persuasion, and then you have a bunch of troops in combat. Look, it can very easily be you have 9 persuasion and many troops in combat with Gurney. That happens a lot late game, and more powerful early game is that you have to look at the main combat space in the board, which is actually Arakeen. Arakeen is the place where you get a troop and you can deploy without faction access, right? And so what does that space do? That space already lets you draw a card. So let's say it draws you a card and you have a net +1 persuasion or +2 persuasion for your hand. And after you get another 1 persuasion, this 1 persuasion is often enough to buy you something very powerful early that other players cannot. So I do think that Gurney is the strongest leader in the game, and I do think that Sneaker is right for picking him here. With Lady Margot, I can understand why Jimmy would pick Lady Margot. I think when you have Lady Margot, Lady Jessica, Staban, and Shaddam in the row, right, you would incline towards something that's stable, and I think Lady Margot's the most stable of leaders. She doesn't look too exciting, but you don't really need too much excitement. I think just having extra spies that allow you to either draw cards or infiltrate is very, very strong. You can think about it as like Paul's ability, but a bit more rigid, but also can be more flexible. These are like delayed draws or delayed infiltrates, right, which are very, very powerful. So yeah, I think all in all, decent picks. I think Gurney and Muad'Dib are the clear favorites here. I think they are the two to watch out for.
And in first position, it's just not guaranteed. Like other players you could get one step up the Fremen track, and the other players could try to prioritize blocking you at every step.
Yeah, we did hear some of that chatter during the tournament because of the buzz around Muad'Dib. There was definitely an amount of awareness from the players that collectively there might be a collective action problem at the table to get in Muad'Dib's way and prevent him from starting to get his engine going too quickly. With Amber Matwelli was taken by Frank up there in position 2 on your top left.
Yeah, I asked him about that. And I think he said he played her once before in the tournament and thought she was solid. He was looking for some other leaders though, so it seems like kind of nobody got exactly what they wanted, except maybe for Rob. Maybe Muad'Dib would be his favorite in first position. Although I think I asked him, and I think he said he likes Staban Twek in first position.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm a fan of Staban in general. Amber's troop pushing, or her troop ability, I wonder if it's... I could tell myself a story where it's stronger in 3-player, where you're more likely to make a relevant impact on the combat one way or another in a 3-player game than in a 4-player game, but I'm not sure. It's kind of too early to say. We have our first conflict. It is for an influence.
Oh wow, that could be big. There's only 3 skirmishes in the game. This is the only skirmish that offers an influence with a faction of your choice. So if you're aiming for 2 influence with a particular faction to unlock one of the board spaces or prepare the way if you're going Bene Gesserit, winning this combat can be really big.
So it looks like Rob has played Seek Allies to Desert Tactics. And unless I'm mistaken, you could be considering what to trash here.
Simple. It's basically you just probably lay 2-3.
Deployed 2 troops.
For some reason, it works. Yeah. I don't really.
Interesting. Because he could have deployed 3 troops.
Yeah.
I thought you picked my.
I don't think it's.
Nah, I want
It's because it's only on blue, so it's like I don't.
And he probably wants to win this conflict, right? Because in position 1, like we said, Muad'Dib can be blocked getting to Siege Tabor. So if he can win this conflict with his starting influence with the Fremen, he'll be guaranteed to be able to go to Siege Tabor next round.
Oh wow, Rob elected, not only did he only deploy 2 troops, he elected not to trash at all with Desert Tactics. That is a very interesting move.
Yeah. That is not something that I would personally do, just because trashing is kind of so much fun. On round 1, making your deck better, I wouldn't be able to. He must. What do you think? Why do you think he did that?
The only thing I can imagine is that he just has a very specific plan for every card in his hand. Obviously, he's playing for the conflict, so maybe he's reticent to trash some daggers. Maybe he has convincing arguments in his hand, and he's concerned about making a good buy in round 1. I know I would be. What do you think about this row?
Bene Gesserit Operative on the left, very strong card. This row actually looks incredibly strong now that I take a look at it. The second card is Maker Keeper, which is a very strong 2-cost card. The third card is, I can't see the name of it. It's something like Covert. Let me quickly find it.
The Maker Keeper is a strong card, but it's not necessarily the strongest right at the beginning of the game.
True.
Undercover Asset.
Yep. So Undercover Asset is kind of an incredible card to flop early, right?
Yes.
Because it lets you break the rules on accessing those 2 influence board spaces.
Right, yeah. Undercover Asset lets you ignore influence requirements on board spaces when you use it to send an agent. So, possibly most notably, Siege Tabor. It could let you bypass needing 2 from an influence at all to get to Siege Tabor and get your maker hooks.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So Rob could have not prioritized going to the Fremen and planned as the first player with the first buy to buy that card. However, that can backfire if somebody else decides to early reveal.
Yeah, it's always possible. So Frank in position 2 played his signet ring to Arakeen and got into the troops. Also did not deploy the maximum that he could have, like Rob, matched him to 2 troops.
And I think I heard Rob say, "There goes my plan." So I think Rob was maybe planning on going to Arakeen to back up his forces.
Interesting, interesting.
But there could also be some gamesmanship going on.
Could be. I don't know that Arakeen is a space you can really be too confident is going to float around to you in the first round when there's no bonus spice out there and a lot of spaces that nobody has access to. Arakeen is on the stronger side.
And where did Jimmy play? I think I missed him place his agent, but he's clearly in the... Oh, he played to Fremkit.
Ah, yes. Jimmy took the other Fremen location.
Which is wise, obviously, right? You can't let Rob get away with both.
Right. He's making Rob earn his second Fremen influence in the case that he does have his diplomacy in his hand as well. And Jimmy limped into the conflict with just 1 troop. It's a little bit interesting to see the 2 players in the early positions be into the commit to the conflict so much. Often you see players in early positions, at least on their first time around,
Right.
try to wait before they commit and see what the players behind them are going to do a little bit.
Right. There's something a little subtle going on, too, whenever Gurney is in the game, in 4th position, because Gurney sometimes has an incentive to go strong into an early combat. If he gets at least 6 strength in the combat, he gets an extra persuasion to buy. So you never know when Gurney might just pop in with a bunch of troops, although he did just play his signet ring off Arrakis up to accept a contract, so he kind of took away his trump card there.
Yeah, I know when I'm playing Gurney, I can hardly resist trying to get 6 strength in every single combat. I just want that extra persuasion. Feels so impactful.
So the first round of actions is really interesting. So we have Muad'Dib who goes to Desert Tactics and deploys in 2 troops. And then after that you have Lady Amber who puts in 2 troops. So you might find it very curious of why you're putting in 2 troops. The reason they're doing it is that there's a lot of double deploying in this in this expansion. In the base game, right, what happens is that you have 1 spot that you can deploy 4 troops with 1 single action, right? So because of that, whoever who goes to that space normally takes the combat. But in this one, everyone is trying to feel out each other. So when you put in 2 troops, right, and then what happens is that you can see how many troops that everyone else puts in. Then you can put in the relevant amount. So what happens is that you don't need to overcommit in the first one, because if you want to win the combat, you are going to double deploy anyway. So that's why you can always save your 2 troops for your later deploy. So that is why I think both Rob and Frank both made this play. So you have Jimmy coming in after that. I think Jimmy had a hand with 2 faction access, and so he chooses to go to Fremkit to draw a card, right? And then after that you have Sneaker who has no faction access, and in this line he chooses to go to accept a contract, which picks up this contract that gives him a water if he goes to Arakeen. I think going to Arakeen is in his plans down the line somehow. Water is very valuable in this expansion, so I can understand why he's doing this. Also, if you are not, if you don't have faction access, I think you want a good buy, and because he has such a high persuasion hand, he's definitely going to look to buy one of these cards. Hi guys, it's like the first action, and this is taking way longer to edit than I expected. If you like what I'm doing and you think that I should continue, please do like this video and write it in the comments, and I'll continue to do it for the rest of the video. If not, we'll just if not, it will be a passion project down the road. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying it so far. When I have more time, I'll continue it. But I just want to put this out first so that just I can get a sensing of if I should continue, and hopefully this will help you follow along the game even better. Thanks for watching. See you around.